Yeah.
Namaste, Namaskar, Shalom, Sat Sri Akal, Salam Alaikum, and welcome, Gaurav Maria. Kya haal hai?
Very good. You tell me, how are you? And we have reversed the positions. You are in Chandigarh and I'm in Delhi. So
Yeah, we have to be where we have to be. It's all about work and everything like that. But Gaurav, I've been following your journey forever, and I'm very fascinated and overwhelmed by your journey. And I would like to introduce to the audience all that you've written, which are so fascinating, right? Building an entrepreneur mindset, all the things that I talk about, and you condense it into a book, Take Charge. It takes two to tango, and I love that phrase because I always love to tango. I love to waltz. Being a Goan, we love ballroom dancing. But of course, the focus is on a book called Franchising, the Science of Reproducing Success. So we have all your books on our slide. And before we go deep into our books, Gaurav, welcome once again to the Author Experience conversations that we have with cool and inspiring authors like you every Sunday. So welcome.
thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. And you yourself is a very accomplished man, and good to have a conversation with you Sunday evening. Yeah.
We hope to make it a very fruitful conversation, especially for all the people who have joined us on Facebook Live. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of mompreneurs, a lot of people from across several dimensions who joined us on Facebook Live, including students and wannabe entrepreneurs who will gain a lot from your experience. So to begin with, Gaurav, if I had to tell you to get rid of all your accolades, all the things that you've done over the years, right from the age of 16, and I must tell you that one of the things that I really kind of found like-mindedness with is that you started at the age of 16. I started at the age of 16. The only difference is I didn't start as an entrepreneur at the age of 16. I started as a job employee. I started working with a newspaper called Indian Express, selling space at the age of 16. I did that for 3 months before I started my first enterprise. So technically, I was an employee and an entrepreneur at the age of 16. But that's something which is like-minded, and I would like to know the entire journey later. But if I had to tell you to get rid of all those accolades, the titles, the several roles and responsibilities that you fulfilled over the years, and ask you to tell me, Gaurav, who are you? In 7 descriptors, if I had to ask you to tell me and define yourself as an individual in 7 descriptors. Those descriptors could be nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, roles, responsibilities, values, principles, whatever. And it could be one word or a set of words, but 7 descriptors. What would those 7 descriptors be that define a man, an individual called Gaurav Maria?
So this is a very difficult question for, journey, which has not been, it would have been a 4 or 5 years, 10 years, maybe I can define in one word. But when you live a life, which is now at least active life, and you say that I started the entrepreneurial journey at 16, which cannot be planned. So it would be a default journey. So, and then subsequently you get into doing what you really are passionate about. Most of the times when you're young and you make some money, then you want to do things which you're passionate about, and sometimes they don't work. And then you start going and trying to do survival, and then you find your passion, which I found in Franchise India when I started Franchise India. So over the years, it has changed, Jerry. I think I was the first word I would like to do, which I defined me at that time, was so to say discovery. So I was
discovery. I like that word, discovery.
Yeah.
And how do you unpack that word, discovery?
It's true with almost every middle class Indian young boy or a young girl, right? Because we are limited by our upbringing. We've just been there in a limited, restricted environment, and you want to really discover. You want to really see the world. You want to do things, and you always are being told by your well-wishers, parents, everybody that he did that and that happened there, and you are somebody who's just listening, but you have no ability to discover it yourself. Right. So I think the first journey And I encourage that now. I rather every time I get to a forum, I tell every single young man, I say, this is your time to discover. Go out and take this life. Go out and discover. Use this as an opportunity.
And
Uh,
I love the way you explained it, because I always say that, all your education, everything without exposure to discover yourself is futile. So I really love that. I completely empathize with you. Lovely. The first word itself has unpacked it all. Discovery. You have 6 more to go.
yeah, so that would be my first word, and then I think second word would be to really be ambitious. And I wanted to be, I will be very honest. At a very early age, I wanted to be ambitious. I wanted to do almost everything which was coming across. You were overconfident. You want to be trying to do things. You don't know yourself well, and sometimes you overestimate yourself or underestimate others around you, and all that start happening. And then you get on to the next cycle where you want to be somebody who's consistent, somebody who is consistently doing what people are now expecting from you to do that, because you got some early success. And then when you are got early success, you have this huge compulsion which starts coming around for a life people want you to lead. And then you start, yeah.
So help me to understand if I am right in the way you're going with this, because I like the way you're leading this, right? I thought I was leading you, but now you're leading me, right? You said first part is discovery, second part is ambitious, and the third part is being consistent. So you're going actually on a journey as an entrepreneur, as a person, as a human being, as an individual. Am I right?
Absolutely. And that's something which then become your consistencies is actually not something which is liked by entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs by nature want themselves to be in discomfort. If they try to be consistent, that means that they are now becoming automated. They're trying to be so if anybody says, look, I'm a successful entrepreneur and I'm extremely consistent, I just do same way, I make so much of money, same value, it
then they're
doesn't work.
getting then they're getting into a routine. That's what you're saying.
And they would die. This entrepreneurship is not being consistent. It's all about going out and finding the next door to open, the next idea to open, next things to do. So you need to always keep yourself in extreme discomfort.
I like
By
you.
nature.
I love what you're saying, and it's completely bang on with me. So
Yeah,
discovery, ambitious, consistent, because if you don't have consistency as an entrepreneur, there's a huge possibility that you would get derailed along the way. And I love the messages you're giving. And somewhere my co-founder Itu Chopra, she found something that you had spoken about around 4 5 years ago. What we have been speaking around for about forever, about create value. Valuation is incidental. It's a manifestation of creating value. You can't create valuation without creating value. So I completely love what you're speaking, and I'm happy that you're speaking the same language as us. Go ahead. You have 4 more to go.
so then I think you start rediscovering, so this is another cycle which starts happening in your life, because when you have done the first cycle, then you start working on rediscovering that. And that is a time where you have at least in some estimate what you're good at. And the second journey, when it starts, you start realizing what you're not good at. So that journey really starts creating a direction for you. You start becoming more self-discovery to find out what you like for example, me, I did a lot of businesses. I did about I think 40 businesses before this rediscovery started with me. And I realized that I'm good in ideation. I'm very, very good in understanding and diagnostic capabilities. But I'm extremely poor when it comes to sometimes handling deep operations. So I need to find co-founders with me, people who would look after and get into depth of the business and be available to do things which I personally don't like. And I used to avoid that because I will not like to sit in a finance meeting because I'm a creative guy. So I just don't like it. I want to really give somebody else to really look at it. So you start rediscovery of this, and
So
then
what I'm
you get
here,
on to,
so
yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is that be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses, because you can't have all the strengths. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Totally. And rather, I would say every individual has about 80% of what he believes system is not his strength area. About 20%, which also you work upon, like I've seen you know, over the time, how you've worked hard and hard and hard. And today, I think you've become an expert in your domain and the kind of work and the value you add to people. All that has shaped. But this has not come just because you thought you wanted to be. This is because
Absolutely no. Absolutely.
of
It's a
a lot
journey.
of, yeah, it's a journey, practice, consistently committing yourself, consistently, rather than enjoying a beer outside in a nice weather outside, you're sitting and having a boring interview.
And I enjoy the beers too, I must confess.
No, no, that's why I asked you. You really want to do a Sunday after evening, late evening interview, the boring.
I've been in Chandigarh, we are doing the golf club elections, we have funerals, everything is happening, funerals, marriages, everything is happening at the same time. But the point is, life goes on. And I completely am with you. You got to completely rediscover yourself. I like that word. Something, you just give me 4 descriptors, but I like the way the entire sequence is going. And I don't know if you've seen the past episodes of what we do on AuthoREXperience, because you seem to have come all prepared for it, because your journey is so purely consistent with the way of thinking that I think: discovery, ambition, consistency, rediscovery. And when I say rediscovery, I always talk about rejuvenating yourself, reinventing yourself, renewing yourself, because I always say perfection is the biggest lie of the world. Continuous improvement is the biggest truth of the world. Nothing can be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. You continuously improve, failing which you're in the box. But yeah, go ahead. 5, 6, 7.
So then I think my journey really then started working on creating a purpose. And that's something which is entrepreneur enlightenment, which happens, so if you don't have a purpose, and if you're not solving a big problem, you can never be a successful entrepreneur. Rather, I do a series called Successpreneur, and that series I just work on only one aspect, and I say it's entrepreneur. Anybody can become an entrepreneur, right? Anybody can do a startup and build a business and so on and so forth. But if you're not solving a problem and you have a larger purpose to address, it would not be. And that became my purpose, because I wanted to work with a lot of people who wanted to become entrepreneurs. So I really wanted to help them. And I used to enjoy, today also I have a challenge to do minimum of 300 physical meetings, where I do one-on-one meetings with entrepreneurs, brand owners, business owners, people who want to raise money, scale, startups, anybody. And I tell my calendar, my assistant, that you have a task from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening, 30-minute slots, you have to fill that. And sometimes I'm sitting with somebody I didn't expect, but I want to do it because that's something which gives me a level of purpose and things like that. That's what has been my journey. And the last 2, which you're asking, are one I have not done. Honestly, I would like to foresee and do it, which is the last thing, which gives you and the one I'm doing now is building value. So I'm really building value in lives of people, in my own business and my own enterprise and my own self. That's something which is very difficult. It's a sometimes abused word. Everybody used value. Building value is not easy, and it's not to be related for market cap or the wealth you create and things like that. It's much more than that. And that's something which is what I'm doing currently. But then I have one more passion to do it, and which I will share with you, which is not originally mine. I was sitting with one of the most successful people. He was visiting India. He sold his company at a multi-billion-dollar Indian origin, a techie who was a first-generation techie who sold his business in that thing. And I asked him, what is the meaning of success? And he gave me 4 quadrants. And he actually took a tissue paper and wrote 4 quadrants. And he says, all 4 has to be filled. In the first quadrant was what you do in your public life, which is your success, what people know about you, what you achieved. Opposite direction of that quadrant is your personal life.
Personal life. Very
so
nice.
Opposite direction. So which means that if you do too much there and you're too busy, you're not having, I think your personal life would go away because you have no time for family, your kids, and so on and so forth, right? And this is your social life, which means that you're socially so active, and you have friends, and you know the world and I think, and this is your legacy, what you leave behind. This is only a person who can be successful would have accomplished, not necessarily that you can do all four all the time, right? But in
Okay,
phases of your life,
so the first quadrant is public, the second quadrant is personal. What's the third and the fourth quadrant?
social, which is public, is
Okay,
actually
so
about your success life, which is your career life, your what you do.
what in psychosocial studies is called a socio-emotional life skills.
Yeah.
Okay, and the fourth quadrant?
Quadrant is a legacy which you leave behind, which means that when you've gone, what people know you for, right? So
legacy. Very nice. I like that. And who is this person? I mean, do you want to name him, or is it something that you cannot do in public domain?
I don't want to do that, but one of the top most techies, the first generation techies who sold his digital business in 2002, 2003. He's called Neil. I can share with you, but you can Google him. Yeah.
No worries, because it's very interesting, because this is exactly what we do in our Mojo Inspirator learning. And I had not kept this as a part of the program to speak with, but since you spoke about this, it's very important, because if you don't master the 5 intelligences, your life can never be solid. Your life can never be truly successful, because you can't measure success with money. Because today, people with money, today, people with power, today, people with fame are committing suicide because they are not happy. And what studies show you is that the 5 intelligences are to be focused on. And I've done 20 years of research on this. And Howard Gardner calls it multiple intelligences, but I've kind of boiled it down into 5 intelligences, which is physical intelligence, which is all the IQ that you have, emotional intelligence, EQ, spiritual intelligence, which is about the human spirit. That are you enthusiastic? Are you energetic? Are you like on top of life? Emotional intelligence, which is about conversations, connections with people, and the least focused upon, which is the moral intelligence. Because what research shows you is that when you're doing things which are wrong, when you can make all the money in the world, you can have all the power in the world, but sometime, and most of the time, when you're doing wrong, it pulls you down, because your brain, which is neuroscience has proven this, that our brain mostly operates unconsciously. So our brain realizes that we're not doing things which are right, and it starts pulling us down, and we start feeling cheated and defeated. So I completely kind of comprehend and understand where you're coming from, and I'm really happy that you shared this so candidly. There's something that you spoke about, which you spoke about building value, and then you said, building value is a part that I've started focusing on now. Why would you say that you started focusing on it now? Because you, as an entrepreneur, have started franchising and consulting as a franchising entity for many years, and you've grown so many businesses. So I think you built value over the years. So why do you say you're building value now and not before?
A good question, very, very good question. And, so I'm, as any other entrepreneur who was born in early 70s or 80s even, is I'd call a classic entrepreneurs. Rather the word entrepreneur never was existing. So you not believe this story. In 2003, I registered entrepreneur as a brand, right? And
you also run a magazine by that name.
Yeah, so I run a global magazine for entrepreneur. But in 2003, when I was registering, I thought somebody would have really taken it, right? And I got registration for entrepreneur because it is as new as to people to understand what entrepreneur is all about. So 2003, I got registration for a trademark for entrepreneur. We own registration for now for word entrepreneur. But just to say that people who were like me, who were born in early 70s, are classic business owners. They were told to do X plus Y, which would give you Z. And predominantly, they are designed to do a lot of hard work. Their belief system is all work you do is work hard. Be very conscious about your spend, take that last mile margin, and whatever you take home is your profit. That's what the classic business theory is. And this theory worked because all our idols and all the corporate leaders we saw and everybody we knew exactly did the same. And it was a theory of building brick by brick, put your 30, 40, 50 years, and then you can create an empire. And that stories really surround around us. And these stories really disrupted and they have no meaning left now. And today we see somebody is a 19-year-old and create something extremely disruptive but it is problem solving. It can change the way you do things, and that's where the value is. So value is no more left in your ability to just continue to contribute and put more hard work. It is happening somewhere else. And unless and until entrepreneurs' mindset shifts and they start thinking about, and this is what the problem historically in India has been. If you really see our colonial learning was about not to create any disruption in social environment. So we were just doing job work. We were trained to do and say, I've been trained to do this to this, and I will not question why I'm only doing this. Why can't I do it differently? And I think that's something which is a mindset change. And today, people who are building value are people who are questioning the obvious. So they're questioning that why we do this, why can't we do it differently, right? And that's where the value is really built. And I feel this a lot of people are not getting it. A lot of my counterparts and business owners, and I know a lot of old partners of mine, I think, and they just laugh it out and say, how can a company like Zomato can be a $20 billion valuation, which doesn't produce food, doesn't use his own riders to give you food. What does it does?
And slowly but surely they're crashing right now because of that particular issue that, what is the value that you are creating? Am I hearing in the right way?
Yeah, but one point is about the market capitalization, how realistic it is and how it needs to come down and transfer. But just to imagine an Indian young entrepreneur who came to my platform actually when he was launching for raising capital, and in 10 years builds a phenomenal enterprise which doesn't produce any food. And it was actually not at all about food delivery. It was a company which was started for food restaurant rating, and how it evolved and created another disruption. So what I'm trying to say is that today people have to really find how can I do things which is not obvious, which can be done better, and how it can really create value. And this is something which is now the question why, and that's something which I'm asking.
And I completely hear you, because it's a fantastic way that you explained it, and I would like to elaborate on that. I would like to go beyond a Zomato or a Nykaa, because today, whether the Zomato or the Nykaas or the Paytms of the world, they are right now in the dock, because what people are saying is that you've not really created value, you only created valuation. And that's why, like you, I've been talking about this for many years now. Create value, because valuation is incidental. But before we go more seriously into that part of the talk and go deeper into the books that you've written, I would like to, ask you, Gaurav, to walk us through your life story, because I think you have a very interesting life journey. Like me, I've not had any godfathers or any mentors, but I've kind of sustained my journey through life by walking on that path and doing things which are required and staying strong, because there'll be pitfalls, there'll be hardships, and I know that you've probably gone through more, because you've done some things which are very different, very path breaking. I won't compare the journey, but I would say that, I would like to know more about your life journey. And I'm sure everybody in the audience on Facebook Live wants to know more about your life journey. So the next 9 to 10 minutes are your exclusive time on the virtual space, on the virtual stage. Tell us, from your childhood to now, what has been the journey? What have been the ups and downs? What have been those aha moments? What have been those tipping points which define Gaurav Maria, the man, the mark, the symbol? Over to you, Gaurav.
So, one, I would first start with that this is not going to be any story of a novel. It is a very, very simple journey. I also don't feel my journey, if I look back and looking in environments where we live in, we've been still very privileged to live in the era which was great. We lived in an era which gave us opportunities, and I particularly have been very blessed that I had people like you and everybody else who had great influence and did great work, and I had an opportunity to learn from everyone I met. So my journey really started from Chandigarh. So I was in Chandigarh, very normal bringing. My father was a business owner and a small business owner, and so very clearly, small business ownership really was part of our living, and everything was around that. And then with the moderate of my education, I don't know when I really started getting into feeling to become an entrepreneur, and almost everything I used to see a trade value on that, because if I can take this, I'll give you an example. I used to go to a teacher of mine, tuition teacher, and his brother was some T series distributor, and he used to get cassettes in much in advance because he was distributing in Himachal. And so because Himachal had a problem to reach that cassette, so they used to get 4 or 5 days before the movie is released. So I used to go there, and I used to always see that why he's got this movie cassettes, and the movie was supposed to be released say 3, 4, 5 days from now. And I used to borrow. I should say, can you sell me these few of them? And the tuition teacher would say, oh, this is a little kid, what would he do? So he used to give me these cassettes, and I used to go not take to my home, and few of them I should take to the nearest store, and I say, I can give you on premium, because you can actually launch it in your place, because you got the cassettes much before it was released in the market. So these are instincts which started coming in me, and I used to find an opportunity in anything which can really create a value, and I can start doing that. So a lot of these smaller incidences created a very strong feeling in me that I want to really do something of my own. And I started with a company called SR, which is a telecom company. So I became part as a distributor when the mobile phones were launched, as a GSM phones, and that was launched, and then that was very successful. I was very young, and I had no experience in telecom, no experience in direct sales, build a large team, and my competitors were big organizations. They had big distribution background, and probably that worked for me because they all had baggage and I had nothing. And one thing I really tell every single entrepreneur, in your entrepreneurial journey, 30% is going to be your hard work, your ideation, and so on and so forth. 70% of your success is going to be your timing. So timing plays a very important role. And in my case, almost all success I got was my right timing. If you're able to locate an opportunity at the right time, you're very successful. And that's something which is, especially people who don't come with capital. There are two approaches to entrepreneur's life. One approach is like me, who had never capital. So I always felt timing was very important. So if I was in the right place at the right time, I would make sense out of it. And second are people like Mukesh Ambani, who is loaded with capital. He might late enter telecom the last, but because he comes with so much of capital, he's able to turn around. So these are two sets of people. One are very clearly, it's very clearly like a blue ocean, red ocean kind of a definition. So I was always about timing. So I did 95 telecom, and then I was one of the first one to import the CDMA phones in India. And then I had various things I did. I mean, from opening up a nightclub to starting different kind of consultancies and various retail opportunities, fashion, all that I did. And finally, I landed up doing events. And some of the events actually took me to US, and I traveled extensively in US, and almost every penny I made, I spent on travel. I was crazy at that time in 98, 99, just to travel around and meet companies. And I saw a pattern in US, and that's something which really started a new thinking in me. And this pattern was the way entrepreneurship was built in the United States. Almost everything had a very strong pattern. There were large corporations which were expanding everywhere, and they had very clear everywhere they had presence of the companies like McDonald's, KFCs, which at that age you really see across your movement. Anywhere I went, I saw the same pattern happening. But it also gave a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to partner with these companies and start their own journey. And that used to be very exciting to me. And it says how easy it is in US to become an entrepreneur and to become somebody who can really own a business. And that really stuck me so hard. And I said, why we don't have that in India? Why can't we have that same kind of capabilities or foundation being created? While we all talk about startups, we all talk about this, but there is no company outside franchise India till today, which helps you to really start your startup. Everybody says that you want to be in startup. Everybody wants to encourage startups, but nobody really helps you. A young man who has maybe some money or some borrowing he has, and if you want to really start a business, where would it go? So that really started my journey with Franchise India, and that journey is now 24 years, and a lot of things happened in that. So every time Franchise India moved to a next client, and then the next solution came up, and so on and so forth. And in this course, I wrote 3 books, and the last one I wrote was still 10 years back, and I want to write the next one, and whenever that opportunity comes. And the first one I wrote was Science of Reproducing Success, which was my topic. This was my subject, and still I strongly believe in that subject. And then I wrote what was very close to me as an Indian entrepreneur, because sometimes I used to read these international books written by entrepreneurs in US, and I sometimes don't relate, because, you start saying, oh, how do you get my circumstances, where doing business in Silicon Valley is very different to do business in Chandigarh or any other place, so how does he really relate to it? So then I wrote Take Charge, which was really about understanding the Indian entrepreneur mindset. And then I wrote Two to Tango, which is a third book. And then no time was left with me to really put my thought process. And whenever I get time, I maybe write the next book, which should be also something around the subject of entrepreneurship. So that's my little journey. And I should end this with saying that, look, if I look back, I really don't see a struggle. I'll be honest. I'm a little blunt on that. I think God has been extremely kind to me. I had no struggle to really do that. I've been very opportunist. Life has given me great opportunity, and also a lot of good friends and a lot of mentors, guides who have helped me to really pass this journey well. So this is my little journey, and it's not fancy enough to really create some kind of a milestone story, and I don't want to do it also. I just feel that if you have a simple life, that's the way it should be.
I like you, Gaurav. I like you. I really like you because you're very modest, very down to earth, and I know that it's been a tough journey. Let's face it. When you say there's been no struggle, I mean, trying something like franchising in India at a time when the country was not franchise ready, if I may put it like that, that's a struggle. So I don't know how you say you've not struggled, but I really like the spirit of you saying that you've not struggled. But one thing which I want to ask you about is what made you get into a concept like franchising at a time when franchising in this country was not ventured by many established brands? What made you get into that concept? What made you smell the potential of this concept in India? Because you are the father of franchising in India, whether we like it or not. So what made you go for that? What's the secret sauce?
So, this really started with my own thinking, So I was very what time I was somebody who's really exploring opportunities, and I now in my seminars I say that people, when they're looking for opportunities, they go and look at the 3F. And these 3F are: the first is family. So you will find some uncle of yours who was very successful in some business, and the entire family wants to be that uncle, right? So that's your family. Second is your friends, and if anybody in your friends was doing something great, you want to do that similar thing. And third is fools, so which means that you saw somebody, at least it appeared to you that it was successful, and everybody wanted to do that. Like everybody wants to open up a microbrewery. Everybody wants to open up. Like I joke with everybody that in Delhi at one point in time, I don't know, remember, Jerry, there were 26,000 pool tables. As if that
Absolutely. Oh my
Delhi was
God, that was like the delusion of the times. and all cyber cafes.
and cyber cafes. So it just looks like that everybody was just waiting. Delhi was just waiting to play pool, right? So, and where are they gone? So these were 26,000 entrepreneurs.
I completely get you.
So these are three F's which people wanted to do, and I wanted to create the fourth F, which was Franchise India, where people can get a research report on before you already make an investment decision. So that, on a lighter note, I would like to tell you.
Right. So you chose to go on that hard route, that
Yes.
route of researching, because see, when you pioneer, when you say you're the father of something, I can say I'm the father of the joy of giving, right? And I remember when I started Joy of Giving in way back in 2002, people said, you don't have money, you don't have funding, how will you promote this concept? And I said, no, I'm doing something good. I know this will spread like wildfire. And today I'm happy to say the Joy of Giving is a global movement. I've never put my name to it. Everybody knows I started it. I mean, it was not about holding on to the name. But when you're starting something new, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of cojones, if I may call it. I'm not going to use the Indian word, I'm going to use the Mexican word. It takes a lot of cojones. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of bravery to stick your neck out, right? Because here is an idea which has not been tried and tested, and you are putting your neck out. So and then you want to create value for so many others who are not ready to comply with you. They're not ready to collaborate with you because they all want to wait and watch. Therein lies the struggle, Gaurav, and I know you've gone through it. You're being more modest about it. I like your gratitude about it, that life has been good, but it's a tough journey, and in that journey things go right and things go wrong, and then everybody always waits to condemn you for what is wrong. uh, I've had a lot of people who've been posting on the wall today, and I just deleted all the messages. uh, what I'm trying to say is, it's a tough journey, and you endured that journey, and you written that book, and that's where I want to dive deeper into the book right now. When you say the science of reproducing success, those are two very powerful words. Reproducing success combined with a circle called science around it. It's not an art, it's not a craft, it's a science. When you say it's the science of reproducing success, how do you unpack that? How do you unbox that?
Science of reproducing success was something which, if this is a mistake a lot of people do in once you are successful in something, and you then become more creative to create something new, and you want to create another one, and you really don't master to reproduce what you've been successful on. And that was the structure of this book. It was about, if you are successful, and a lot of people around you are successful in something, and then they go out and start creating something else and something else and something else. And while that's not bad to be creative, but the best thing is that if you are successful in something, then it would be best that you start reproducing that success, which is the way. I'm a big fan of a company called Subway, which I had an opportunity to meet.
And they're a great franchising story.
A great franchising story. It's a simple business, and I normally in my seminars say that look, Subway was the simplest business model. I mean, everybody can make a better sandwich at home than a Subway, right? So
absolutely. You just probably put my two sons out of Subway. They're watching. Okay, go ahead.
So there is no science in that business, but that business model made money for people. And then it started duplicating and became 45,000 restaurants globally and with one company on. So this is something which Indian businesses need to understand. And there's so many successful people with so many successful business ideas. And rather than just being somebody who is trying to do something else, why don't you go out and duplicate that? Like one of the companies I'm extremely proud, I don't know, Reddit recently, client of mine, but more than that, I have great administration. I admire the entrepreneur himself. He's Vikas Gudgudia. He started a company called Ferns and Petals.
Oh, of course. Vikas is a great success story.
Yeah, and it was just a simple business of flower shop, and how he built from the simple fun flower shop to build a ferns and petal empire. And if you are not read it, day before his company got invested by Lighthouse, 200 crores. Now,
Yeah, I know. It was last week, right?
Yeah, last week. And anybody who can really imagine that I'll start a small flower shop and later it will become a $500 million business, and that all happens in India, right? We all talk about, it's not technology, it's not deep tech, it is not the new technology businesses, but simple, straightforward, just a flower shop. You can still create a $500 million business. And that's something which we all need to understand. That there is a great merit in whatever you do. And if you have done something right and it has worked for you, it would be an opportunity for you to go out and reproduce that success. And that would be, and that's what we have been my journey. And I'm going to a lot of entrepreneurs and telling them that, look, encouraging them and say, go out and create your success story by just duplicating what you've created. And every time you duplicate, you'll actually get into the next level of excellence. And that would continue to help you to go down to the next level. Yeah.
Brilliant. And that's very useful because, I've always been speaking about ferns and petals, and I'm very happy that you spoke about Vikas Gudgudia. I hope I got the surname right, but
Yeah.
I've been speaking about him to different people who are florists and part of the networks like Rotary and Lions, and saying, why aren't you franchising? And they've not ever been able to do that. But I think Vikas was somebody who did that from the past 25 years and has managed to do that well. And I'm very happy that he's got funding to go to the next level. So tell us something, what inspired you to write these books? Because, these books are very fascinating, starting from building an entrepreneur mindset. But this is what I teach, not just in startups and new age ventures or unicorns, but also in Fortune 500 companies, because we teach employees how to develop an entrepreneur mindset. And then you have It Takes Two to Tango, which is about achieving customer connect in a country where nobody gives a damn about the customer, right? And then you have The Science of Reproducing Success, which was just spoken about. But what inspired you to write these books, and what are the central themes of each book? If you can tell us in the next 6 to 7 minutes about each book in 2 to 3 minutes.
So the first book I wrote was Science of Reproducing Success. Is actually on franchising. If you really
and you've spoken about that, yes.
So it is a franchise. I sometimes call it franchise textbook. So if you want to get into that, it explains you how you can really build your franchise business.
I've read the book, and I really wouldn't call it a textbook. A textbook can get very boring, but the way you've written it, it's very interesting. It helps you to kind of feel motivated and charged that you can franchise and you can grow and replicate your business. So that's one book. But what about the other two books?
Second book is very close to my heart. That was a book which I really worked extremely hard, and that book came, something which is very natural to me, and almost everything which is written in the book is self experiences combined with a lot of people I know their experiences. And actually, I wrote the three things which really come out of this book is, as an entrepreneur mindset, you have three parts, fun, fear, and fantasy. Fun is actually what you were saying, that when you start, you might look like that you're not making money, you're losing, you're getting disappointment, but you're really having fun. Actually, I know startups who come back and struggle and do the entire thing are actually enjoying it, because they are at the moment of creating something. They are in that fun of entire thing. It's a journey which you chose and you want to really go out of that. If I look back now, from outside, people would say, oh, you were struggling, you were sleeping in cars and you're doing all that entire thing, but you're actually enjoying it. Nobody's like telling you to do that, but because you're having that fun of creating something. And then you get suddenly into a trap, which is the fear theory. Fear is that you now have fear of losing things. You can lose money, you can lose your reputation, you can lose this, you can lose that. A lot of things would start coming and binding you up. And then the third journey really happens when you again start coming back to your fantasy. If you look at journeys of people like Mukesh Ambani, richest man in India, everything you want to accomplish is done. Look at what he sleeps on every night, that somebody else can take his position. Right? So it's more in the business of fear that no opportunity should go outside the money fold, right? I should be the best in everything. I should be the first in everything. I need to do this. So you're running a big fear theory at this stage. And if you don't have ability to really, come over it and start enjoying again and building the fantasy of creating something which is deeper. And that's something which I admire about that man, because I know inside every human with that kind of accomplishment and with that entire thing is always very scared, is very protective of not doing that. At that stage, to now start thinking about creating something different and starting living a different life and doing things of that nature is really a fantasy. And that's where I think every entrepreneur should really think that. How can you really beat your fear theory? And fear is not bad. You can keep it because it keeps you balanced and keeps you down and it keeps you, stable sometimes. Otherwise, we all can be wild humans.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you that we can all be wild humans. I really like your thought process, because if we are not harnessed, if we are unfettered, we can be we are already a very dangerous race. Most of the things that are going wrong in the world are because of human beings, not because of any other animals. And like I always say to people in my leadership talks, that try to be a good human being, not just a human being, because the only animal which does not contribute to the preservation and the restoration of Earth is the human being. Even a worm and a germ contributes, but not the human being. Thank you so much. Gaurav, some great insights from all your books, and I really like the way you think. And I come back to the seven descriptors that you spoke about, and I'm going to wind up with that. You spoke about discovery, ambition, right? And I like this discovery part, and I would like you to unpack that. And with ambition, I would say, I always caution people, be ambitious, but don't be over ambitious, because over ambition can lead to drastic disaster for the self and for everybody else. And then from ambition, you came to consistency. And I think there was a clear-cut thought process over there. And then rediscovering purpose, building value, and success. My first question to you is, how would you define success, Gaurav Maria?
So obviously it has changed significantly. Success has now, the meaning to me is something very holistic. And obviously I want to really take two components, which I have not done, honestly, too much of work, which is building something which you can really, create forever. So that's something which is my next journey. And also a lot of time in, with people you love, and be around them and so on and so forth. And while I'll continue to build my, career journey for doing things which are meaningful, and at this stage, that meaningful is not me, is empowering others. And I feel that I genuinely started thinking that I'm best to be sitting behind somebody and making somebody run the ship or the boat or something, whatever you want to call it. So my journey is not really about me anymore. It is about a lot of other entrepreneurs who I can guide or tell them what not to do. Maybe more than I think in my life, I've learned to say what not to do more than what to do. So I'm going to get this going with a lot of entrepreneurs. And socially, I'm very poor, so I'm not somebody who's very socially active. That also I would like to do at a certain stage of life. So as I said, Neil Basker, who told me this quadrant, I still remember very, it stayed with me. And I always used to look at that quadrant, and I would like to practice this in the next part of my journey, while continue to build Franchise India and Franchise India group companies and so on and so forth. And a lot of other things are happening in Franchise India, which are going to be very interesting, and times to really see that. Another ambition I have for franchising is that I want to now build a global company, which we are in many countries, but I still feel that the learnings we've got in India and the work we've done in India, I think that can be done in 100 other countries. So that's also something which is up on cards. And with Corona now settling down, I think we all can be packing our shoes and going around and just doing meaningful work in the markets. So this is a little bit what is the plan forward.
Excellent. I'm very happy to hear that. And I'm sure that you will add much more value to many businesses going forward. Gaurav, you and I met very recently. We've not met forever, though I have been working with your organization, or rather being supported by your organization and your magazines for the past 2 decades or 20 years plus. I've met Ashita, who I think is your sister-in-law. I've never met you till around a week or 20 days ago. But one thing I can tell you is, from what I have learned of you and what I have known of you, and from my little interaction with you in our first and only meeting, there's a lot of grit, there's a lot of resilience, there's a lot of determination, there's a lot of positivity, there's a lot of ambition, and that's good. And I think it's all towards building value towards franchises, because you're not just working for yourself. Surely you need to make money because you need to sustain, but you are working towards building sustainability, scalability, replicability for so many organizations that you're working with. And I wish you all the best in your endeavor. I think it's a very tough task. It's a huge responsibility, and hats off to you. My salute to you and your team, Sonia Chaudhary, to Ashita, to everybody else in the team. And thank you so much for doing that. If I had to ask you finally to conclude with, what are the 5 to 7 biggest lessons that you would impart to all the entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs and aspirational entrepreneurs? What would those be? And we'll conclude with that.
I think
5 to 7 again.
5 to 7. You give a big talk list, so I have to start thinking on entire thing. So one thing very important is, before you even jump on the journey of being an entrepreneur, just don't do it for money. And if money can be the third or the fourth thing which you want to desire from that business, or whatever you enterprise you're starting, it is the problem solving which is extremely important. And you need to really see, is it really big enough which I'm trying to change? And that's something which is very important. And this is where I think young entrepreneurs are able to do much better than people who are classic entrepreneurs who just want to add another zero into whatever they are doing in terms of their business models and so on and so forth. So that's very important part. This was first part. Second, I think we are very weak in India to define our business journey. We are all very impulsive. We get into that and then we start discovering and following and learning and doing that. And I feel that before you do that, it's an opportunity for you to really define your journey. And that journey can only happen if you define your own life journey, which means your life goals and your entrepreneurial goals, unless and until they match, it never happens. So
Absolutely.
You can be a very successful entrepreneur from somebody's eyes, but from your own satisfaction level, you're not satisfied because your life goals were very different.
And I completely agree with that. Yeah.
So your life goals, like you are, I mean, you are a successful entrepreneur, but your life goals are matching with what you always wanted to.
Oh, they're very aligned. They're very aligned. My life mission, my entrepreneurial mission is the same. They're not, I mean, like I always say, I've been doing what I want to do all my life from the age of 16, just like you, Gaurav, and I've never worked a single day in my life.
Yeah, that's exactly, because that's why you're setting a 7:30 and interviewing a boring man. right? So why are you doing it? Because this is your life goal. This is what you want to do. This is what you purpose you want to do. This is what you want to really give people a thinking structure, give them, add something in their life.
I
Give
love
them,
the way you sublimed it. Yeah, beautiful.
so that's something which is very, very important. So you need to really define your life goal. And that's the second point. Third part is the most difficult, which entrepreneurs don't do it, is persistence. There's a movie called, which I've become a big fan of that movie. And this is called Founder. It is on the founder of McDonald's. If somebody's not seen that, I will recommend certainly to see that. It's all about persistence. It's all about persistence, following your dream, following your dream, following your dream. And that something is becomes a way of life for you to
And
continue to do.
you're talking about Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc, yeah. Ray Kroc's movie called Founder.
Yeah.
It's the movie which I don't see movies, but this movie, incidentally, I saw on a craft.
No, it's a brilliant movie, and I think they were very close to the truth because Ray Kroc, if you read the story, Ray Kroc was a complete disaster, right? He had like huge bills to pay, loans, debts which he could never live up to, had a tough relationship with his wife. And I think the movie didn't do justice to him. You should read his autobiography. It takes a lot to be like that because you just can't take a small outlet from the back of beyond in the United States of America called McDonald's and make it into a huge franchise like what it is today. He even wrote about it in the book that he bluffed about his letter to Disney, which was never there. I mean, Disney never agreed to it, but it takes that kind of grit, resilience, and I hear what you're saying. And how do you relate that with any entrepreneur journey is what I want you to unpack right now.
So these are three things which I feel that every good entrepreneur or any successful entrepreneur would always have, or they would learn to it. And I also now tell everybody that entrepreneurship is something which you can learn. It's something which can be taught. It's something can be practiced. So it's not that you have to be born entrepreneur or you have to be blessed with that. And a lot of people have that myth. So he can do it because he's blessed with that, or he has that skill. And you can learn it. You can learn it. You can train yourself hard. And that's what is very, very important. And in these days in my webinars, I say, and you have to set up a date. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to set up a date. And this date means D stands for discipline. You need to be extremely disciplined. A stands for accountability. You need to be accountable for whatever you do. T stands for training yourself as an entrepreneur. And E stands for encouragement to yourself every single day, because nobody else would do it. So you need to really encourage yourself because you're alone in the space, right? You are expected to encourage others, but nobody is actually encouraging you. So it is that date. So unless and until you set your date with your entrepreneurial journey, it never comes through.
Beautiful. And I'm so happy that you shared this with all of us as entrepreneurs, as wannabe entrepreneurs, because you've got to stay tough, you've got to stay solid. This journey is not easy. It's very difficult. There are ups and downs, there are hardships, there are hurdles, there are obstacles, there are struggles, there's suffering, there's pain all along. And it's not an easy journey, being an entrepreneur in any realm. And I think that's where you need to stay strong, where you need to stay solid. And I think that's been a great learning experience with my dear friend Gaurav Maria, who's gone through the journey past 25 years. He says there are no such things as born entrepreneurs. And I remember the message I sent out was, if there's anybody who's near to a born entrepreneur, it's Gaurav Maria, because he has tried it all. And Gaurav, it's a delightful experience because, like you, I've dabbled in several things. I didn't start a restaurant or anything, but I helped people to start restaurants. I was an advisor with the Taj Group of hotels. I've done things in different realms, just as an entrepreneur with the entrepreneur mindset. How can you take an idea and make it happen, monetize it, make it develop into a real full-blown idea, right? And I think that's the fun part of being an entrepreneur. I'm sure you'll agree with that. And I think that gratifies you, that makes you feel grateful forever about what are the ways you can actually bring an idea to life, bring an idea to action. And thank you so much, Gaurav. It's been a wonderful experience having this conversation with you. I've learned so much. I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. I'm 51 years old, but I've learned so much. And I'm sure that the young aspiring entrepreneurs and young startups who are watching us on Facebook Live have learned a lot from you. I would request all of you to please go on to Amazon and buy Gaurav Maria's books. You'll get a lot of insights about how to build an entrepreneur mindset, how to reproduce success, and how to work towards having a strong customer connect and customer loyalty. That's what we teach, at least in my coaching programs. I work with something called Net Promoter Score. How do you build strong customers who are promoters and not detractors? Gaurav, thank you so much, and
Thank you, my friend. And
pleasure having this conversation with you.
I add one thing: what you do is much more meaningful than all of us we do. You impact lives, and that is much more powerful than really creating products or services and so on and so forth. So keep doing great work, keep impacting lives, keep helping the communities, keep helping. And I know you do a lot of work which really helps a lot of people who need genuine help. And that's your gesture you do, and that's not something which sometimes comes out all the time. But that's because what you are, and you really want to make a genuine helping people. So keep doing great work. Enjoyed this evening with you, and have some beer now.
Gaurav, thank you so much. Coming from you, it's a strong endorsement. I must tell you, I don't do it alone. I have my Sena half, my wife Jugnu, and my 2 kids who support me. Our co-founder Itu Chopra, who you have met, she's a huge support. And then we have so many volunteers who support us. And yes, I have never focused on monetizing what we do. We focus more on creating value. We've just spread the word. We are trying to transform. I mean, I have set a very ambitious vision and mission, if I may call it, of creating 10 million entrepreneurs in India by 2030. I want to do it. I know I can do it. I know we can do it. And with support and help of people like you and so many others, I'm sure we can do it, because India needs more job creators and job seekers. We are at a cusp right now where there are too many job seekers and no job creators, and it's a negative sign. And I don't want to blame the negative GDP onto a government or anybody else. I think we all need to take responsibility, pull up our socks, and say we need to rise to the occasion. So thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind endorsement and your kind words. Means a lot. And take care. Have a great evening and enjoy what's left of the weekend. And my love and regards to all at home.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you, Gaurav. Bye-bye.